Buongiorno, we are back in our vegetable patch and I'm about to pick a round zucchini over here. Look, we have left this on purpose to get slightly bigger than the others, as I've got in mind a lovely dish today, another vegetarian dish, and I'm going to be cutting it now. Look how beautiful it is. And obviously the longer you leave them, the larger they begin to look. This is a little bit like a small watermelon. And over here I'm going to show you another couple of varieties of zucchini. They are not from our vegetable patch. These are golden zucchini, and they were donated to me by my sister-in-law Jenna, Julie's sister, and I think they were donated to her by a neighbour.
Yeah, they were.
These are fresher in terms of the texture, but also they are slightly lighter, and actually they can be consumed raw in a salad. Today I will be adding them to my dish for brightness and also because they're lighter, whereas these green ones, they are a couple of supermarket ones. They are the standard horse warrior sort of zucchini. You are never going to be disappointed, you know what to expect. There's slightly less water content than this one, and you will use them every day. These ones here, they are beautiful to be cooked especially if you stuff in them. They contain a lot of water, they're higher in water content, but I'm going to be mixing them all together today. Also, I will be complementing the dish with some zucchini leaves, and I'm going to show you here. I've actually spotted a large leaf which I already earmarked, and I'm going to be using this. I'm not sure if you're aware, but you can use the leaves. They're a little bit spiky when you first pick them, but they're perfectly okay. Just the one, and that will be at the base of my dish. And I'm going to be showing you in the greenhouse. A little while back we did another meal, and we showed you the serpent zucchini. We still don't have any zucchini, but the plant is growing beautifully, and also you can eat the leaves. I'll just give you an update on that one, and I'll pick while I'm there some basil and some parsley. However, Julia's just reminded me that we got another couple of little zucchini here, which I can actually have, so I'm going to be using them also. They're little ones, but they will all add flavour and the element of satisfaction as they are from our patch. And here I am inside the greenhouse, and this is the serpent zucchini plant, which I said I'll give you an update on. If you look, has grown considerably since the last update we've given you, and it's now all the way here, and it will continue growing and growing. But
I've even put a wire literally all the way around there. Excuse the butterflies, got trapped in it. All the way around here, just in case it goes mad.
But I can see that there are some, can you see here, there are some flowers beginning to develop. So really looking forward to
actually, I think there's, look here, there's some little, can you see them? There's flowers up here, and they've actually gone
beginning to
and so things will pollinate. You can probably hear there's a bees caught in here as well. I keep the door open and then they come in and pollinate anyway. So we might, I don't know how many we'll get, but maybe one or two, maybe.
However, I said I would come and pick some basil, so I'll get a nice little sprig there, and also some parsley. So I'll go in this plant here, which looks a little bit fuller. Also, I'm going to use this basil, which is called red Reuben, and it's different. Taste-wise, it's very similar, but it looks slightly different. So, just for the sake of it, I'll just go and pinch a little from over here, and I'll show it to you. Look, see, it looks just like normal basil, and it smells just like normal basil, but it's purple in color. And I'm gonna get myself a few more leaves of parsley, and then I'll see you indoors where I'll start cooking this magnificent and beautiful dish made of 3 types of courgettes or zucchini. However, I nearly forgot, before I go in, these are artichokes and they are ready. So they will not be part of this recipe, but I'm going to be picking them now, otherwise they will go over. And I'll cut it at the base, as I will be making something with the artichoke itself, a very typical Sicilian dish called carciofi a tuppadedo. I'll show you what that means later. But I'll cook this most probably tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, and also I'll be cooking something with the stem. And here we got another one. However, this plant is still going. There is a little one here, but this one is ready. So likewise, I'm going to go at the bottom and I'll cut it here, and then I'll cook something with the stem, and I'll do something else with the artichoke.
And then we'll leave the other one to develop a bit more, yeah?
We will, yes, but it will be in a separate video, and when the video is released I'll put a little link up here so that you can have a look if you wish. So see you in those in a little while.
Third time lucky.
Third time lucky, yes. And I'm back in the kitchen, ready to make my garden zucchini bake, 3 colors but 1 dish. Let me quickly run you through the ingredients first though. So you've seen my zucchini. Here is my round one, the star of the show today. By the way, you do not have to use round courgettes, you do not have to use 3 different colors. They all taste very similar. The texture might be slightly different, so just use one type of zucchini if you like. And these are the most bog standard zucchini you will find available in any supermarket. Also quantity wise, here I've got 4 long ones, a round one and 2 little ones. So you'll have to adjust it depending how many people you're cooking for. I'm doing a fairly large batch. Diane, my mother-in-law, she's asked for a portion, so I'm making some for her also. Then I've got here some fresh tomatoes. I will be using a handful of that, and some Grana Padano. Herbs, you see me picking some parsley and some basil. I will be using a little garlic, most probably 1 clove. Here is my beautiful big large leaf. I've washed it. I've washed all of the vegetables, of course, and this will be going at the base of my dish. A couple of small size white onions, any color will do. Tin of chopped tomato, the cheapest you can find, because the flavor from all of the ingredients will enrich the flavor of the tomato, so you don't need to spend a lot of money. I've shown you the grana. I've got here a fresh bowl of mozzarella still in its own water, which I will be chopping later, and I will be assisted by some balsamic vinegar, optional, you don't have to use it, but it will add a nice flavor, and of course, as always, salt and pepper and olive oil. And hopefully I haven't left anything out. If I have, I will mention it later. But of course you can always find the list of all of the ingredients and the cooking instructions in the notes. There is a part in every YouTube video, not just mine, where you can find in the description the ingredients and also the cooking instructions. And I'm trying to be always as detailed as I can. And the quantities I'll be using today is what I will be listing. So let's make a start. I'll make a very simple sauce first using my tomato here. And this is something that also you can make if you're doing a very simple pasta sauce. So I'll show you in any case. What I think makes these recipes special is not just the fact that they are simple to make, but also the convenience. In my case, I'm using a lot of stuff from the garden, vegetables and so on, but even if you were to buy them, they are not that expensive, and you will find that actually they are very, very cheap to make. So clove of garlic I crush, including the skin, and I'll place it inside a saucepan with some olive oil. I'm using a couple of onions, but also you could get away with just using one if you want, or none. In some cases, in some families they don't use any at all. But I do like the texture of the onion. And for that very reason, I will actually be slicing them in half first, and then I'll tend them on the base, and I'll leave them fairly chunky like this. They're about half a centimeter in thickness. Tomato wise, I'm using chopped tomatoes. I think I mentioned earlier, but you can use whole tomatoes. It doesn't really matter. If you want, use whole tomatoes, just put them in the food processor and they will become chopped, of course. So I'm ready to move to the hob next. The garlic has been seasoning for a good 30 seconds and I can add the onions next. Temperature is medium-high. I'll turn it down slightly now, and I will leave now the onions to cook gently for about 3 minutes until they're slightly softer. And my tin of chopped tomatoes can go in, followed by some salt and pepper. I turn the temperature up again so that the tomatoes start boiling, and I'll place the lid on and I'll turn it down on to medium, and I'll leave it to gently simmer for about 10 minutes. Back to my zucchini, and I'll start with the round one first. So I'm going to be removing the top underneath this, and also I will remove the bum just a little. And I'll chop it in half first, like so. But I'll show you the inside quickly so that you can see how remarkable it looks, and the similarities to melon is quite incredible. Anyway, so the reason why I cut it in half is because I wanted to cut it this way so that presentationally will look better later. But I'm going to be cutting it quite chunky because I'm going to be shallow frying this and it will shrink. So I'm doing each piece in about 1 centimeter, just like this. And I'll do exactly the same with the second half, and I have to say it is a joy to be able to slice it so simply and easily. If I didn't have the large round courgette, by the way, I would have most probably just used this style of courgettes, but likewise I'm going to be removing the top as I don't want it, and also I'll remove the bum. And sometimes these are okay to eat, but I don't know how long these have been picked for, and these are supermarket ones, so I will remove them just in case. And just like I did with the round courgette, I'm slicing these in 1 centimeter pieces. You can also choose to cut them lengthwise. The reason why I'm going like this is for texture and also presentation. But again, as I said, if I didn't have the round one, I would have only most probably just used these ones and cut them this way. So here's the other one, and off I go again. And by the way, the ones from our garden, they're really tender and really, really delicious. And I'm back on the hob, so I've got a little frying pan going, and I'll add some olive oil at the bottom. I'm going to be fairly generous because this will be all of the oil I'll be using for all of my zucchini. So there you go, cover the entire surface. And as the oil reaches temperature, I will add my sliced zucchini. I will start with the round one first, but there's no reason why, and I will carry on until I cook them all. They will take about 3 minutes per side. They do not need to be totally cooked, by the way, as they will be finished cooking in the oven. So just enough to give them a little bit of a golden color in terms of the shading that you want, and then they'll be ready. So in 3 minutes time I'll turn them and I'll show you what they look like once they come out. I like eggplants, by the way. Zucchini have got a very high water content, so you can actually keep the temperature quite high, and the risk of burning them is very, very low. Of course, stay on top of them. But look, 3 minutes in, and you can see that they've already got lovely golden color, and I'm turning them around. And of course, you'll have noticed that the oil is still there because they've got a high water content, so they will not absorb much. I've had 3 minutes and they're ready to come out, and I'm actually placing them inside a bowl with some kitchen paper so that any residue of oil will be absorbed. And these are done, so I'll do the rest. I will follow exactly the same process with the little ones, and I'll see you once they're all cooked. In the meantime, 10 minutes have passed and my sauce is ready. Here it is, look. And it's looking very nice, it's smelling beautiful. The one thing I'll do though before I carry on is to add a little basil. You saw me picking this earlier from Julie's greenhouse. So in it goes. Always add it at the end, as it will release lots of beautiful flavour. And now that the basil is in, where is the oil? Here. I will also add a little bit more olive oil, and I will mix it all together, and I'll place the lid back on. And I will leave it to gently cool down until I'm ready to put together my zucchini bake. And the oil and the basil will really help marinating everything together. And as I said earlier, you can use this as it is for an excellent pasta sauce. So I've just started on my last round of zucchini, the little ones, and I'm getting my fresh tomatoes ready. So these are baby plum tomatoes. You can use also cherry tomatoes, but they're fresh. Or you can also use salad tomatoes if you like. The one thing I'll do though is to slice them in half. This is because I will be gently frying them with some garlic, and I want the juice to be released, but also I want them to absorb the flavor from the garlic. So literally just in half. Or if they're very large, you can also cut them into 4 pieces. And of course you do not have to use them at all. My zucchini are very vocal, by the way. Apologies for the noise. You can leave them as they are fresh and garnish the top before they go in the oven, or you do not have to use them at all, or do what I do, of course, which I think is a little bit more flavorful. So I'll wait until the zucchini are finished, and then I'll use the same pan, so I save on the washing up. However, I will be using a new clove of garlic, but with this one I will be removing the skin first. And I'm not going along and using my knife, I'm slicing it in very little pieces, about 1 millimeter in thickness each piece. The one thing I do like about cooking, of course, is that there is no waste of time. So whilst the zucchini cook, I'll get some of my other ingredients ready. And I'll start by chopping the parsley, which you saw me picking from the garden earlier, in tiny little pieces like this. And here's my mozzarella, and the reason why I left it in water, in case you're wondering, is because it's very warm. And so I want to make sure that it stays as cool as possible for as long as possible. But I'm going to grate this, and I got here a little cheese grater, and I'm gonna be using the larger size of the cheese grater, because if I was to use the smaller one it would not come out, it would be a mess, whereas like this is considerably easier. So you can do that with any cheese of course, but mozzarella is what I tend to use for this job. But also you do not have to grate it like this, you can slice it with a knife, preferences and choices, but I think like this will be nicer because it will be sprinkled on top of my finished dish. So here is my mozzarella. I'll turn the grater the other way around, and I'll use now the Grana Padano, and I'll grate some of these. Of course the combination of cheese you use is entirely up to you, but if you want to keep to the Sicilian tradition, you might want to use mozzarella and Grana or Parmigiano Reggiano, or the hard, mature Italian cheese that you can find considerably cheaper in supermarket these days. But if you wanted, you can replace it with provolone or indeed cheddar or Edam or Gouda. But do make sure that whatever cheese you use, you have cheese that melts, because obviously it'll be very nice. And of course, as always, quantities are entirely up to you and to taste, but here I've got a good couple of tablespoons of Grana Padano, and also, as I mentioned before, a bowl of fresh mozzarella. And my third batch of courgette is ready. I've done them all together, by the way. Look, they're cooked and they're beautiful. So I'll do exactly the same as to what I did with the large ones. Some kitchen paper to absorb any of the excess oil, and I will leave them to cool down for a few minutes whilst I get the tomatoes ready, and I'll show you what I do. Some fresh olive oil, as the old one has all gone. My pan is still very hot from earlier, so this won't take very long at all. So garlic goes in first, and I will leave it literally for about 10 seconds, no more than that, because it's very thinly cut and it will burn very quickly. So you can see, and I'll add the tomatoes next. I'm not going to be putting any salt or any pepper, as I've already peppered and salted the courgettes, and I want to be careful with the salt intake. But if you look, I'm turning them so that the sliced side faces downwards. They will cook quicker, and then they will also release that juice I was talking to you earlier, so hopefully I will not burn myself. And they will be ready in approximately 3 minutes. There. Do ensure that you keep the temperature on the medium high, by the way. And they're ready, and all I have to do now is to just add a little drizzle of balsamic vinegar, and also some of the parsley I chopped earlier. I'll add on top, and I'll mix them all together, and I will leave them to gently cool down, and they will marinate. And I will do exactly the same with my zucchini. So there is still the pepper in there, so I'll remove it first. 1 and 2. This is very soggy. Never mind, that comes off quite easily. A little balsamic vinegar on top of each plate, and of course the parsley goes in next, and I'll go in and mix that all together, so that just like the tomatoes, all of the flavor from the balsamic vinegar and the parsley is combined with my zucchini. And at last I'm ready to assemble my garden zucchini bake. So I got an oven dish here. You can choose whatever oven dish you've got at home. Ideally a round one would have been better, or an oval one, because aesthetically would have looked better, but I haven't got one, so I'm using a square one. Now you will remember my zucchini leaf, so it's a little bit bigger than my plate. So I will be placing this at the bottom. So what I'll do though, I'll chop it here first. And again, you do not have to have zucchini leaves to make this dish. As I've got it in the garden, I'm making use of it. So I'm just slicing it and just really keeping the more tender parts. So I think I've got pretty much everything that I want, and I will fit in. I'll cut it over here also, so that it will fit nicely. So I'll remove that one from here, and I'll start with my tomato base. And before I do though, I want to taste some and let you know what it's like. It's beautiful, really summery. Just cook it with some pasta, spaghetti, idili or rigatone, whatever you like more, and put some Parmesan cheese at the end, or some Grana Padano at the end. It's just really healthy and beautiful. But I'm putting a little base at the bottom first, like I do when I make a lasagna. And I'll start with my zucchini leaves, and I will put them at the bottom, and then they will disappear. And because I put a little sauce at the bottom of my oven dish, they will cook also underneath. So you will not even know they're there, but they're very healthy and they're full of fiber. And I'll follow it with another couple of generous spoons of my tomato sauce, and here it goes. Ironically, when our children were little, we used to whiz our vegetables and then put it in pasta sauce and hide it. That was a way to get them to eat vegetables. So this is not too dissimilar really, because the leaf is at the bottom. Now I've got a little image in mind for presentation purposes, so I'll start with my courgettes, the large ones first, and I'll go in the middle, and I will start positioning them one after the other like this, so that hopefully I will have enough to cover the entire line. And there we go, look, just right. I've reached the end and I've used all of my round courgette pieces. So I can now move on to the other courgette, the green and the yellow. What I'll do here, very similarly, I will start putting them in a line, but I will alternate. I'll go for a green one and a yellow one, a green one and a yellow one. This is not just because of the visual effect, the coloring, but also because of the texture. I mentioned earlier that the yellow ones, the golden zucchini, they are lighter, so I think it'll be nice to have a different texture as you eat them. So I'll just carry on and I'll do both lines until I get to the end. So I've reached the end of the second line, and I've got quite a few left, so I'm not going to waste them, of course. By the way, this is an excellent side dish, really, really delicious. But we'll use them to close the gaps, and I'll continue alternating the color, going yellow and green and yellow, and so on until they're all done. And if you have followed the same process as I have, you will have some leftover juice at the bottom of your bowls. So whatever you do not throw it away, just pour it on top, just like this. And I'm ready to move to the tomatoes next. Here they are, and I always wait for everything to cool down slightly so that I can use my hands, and it is considerably easier. But what I'll do with this, I'll go in the middle first, and I will slot the hot tomato in between the various zucchini. Not necessarily every other one, wherever there is a good gap, and they will be releasing some additional flavor. So I'll just put them in the middle and I'll carry on. Also, you would not be able to put them in every gap, so there is no space, but just ensure that there are some in there. You can see that every other one I've got a little tomato in there. And the rest I will be positioning them on top of my zucchini, just like this. And I'll make sure that they are visible, so just position them the best you can. And just like the zucchini, I've got some beautiful garlic and various juices left, so I'll add them in. I've got a little sauce left over, by the way, and as tempting it could be to just put it on top, I'm not going to, otherwise it would make it very, very liquidy. But as I said, this is ideal for pasta, so I'll leave it on one side. So cheese next. And I'll start with Parmesan cheese first, and I'll sprinkle it all over the top of my vegetables, just like this. By the way, if you wanted to, you could have put a layer of this before you added your vegetables, but I like to have on top, as it will melt and it will be beautiful as you bite into it. And here is my grated mozzarella, and as I mentioned before, I choose to grate it because I can spread it evenly across the entire surface. And it is ready to go in the oven, but before I do so, I'll add some olive oil, as it will help also cooking on the top. And I'll place it in for anything between 25 to 30 minutes at the temperature of 180 degrees. It doesn't matter if it's conventional or if it's a fan oven like mine. And then it should be, the cheese should be melting, and there'll be a beautiful color, and then I'll get it out and I'll leave it to rest. But I'll show you what it looks like once it comes out of the oven. So it's in about half an hour. Look at this, 30 minutes exactly, and it is ready, and it's bubbling away. So that is another reason why I didn't want to put more tomato at the end, because clearly there's plenty of liquid going on in there. So it's really, really hot. You can wait 10 minutes and eat it if you like. In our case though, I will wait until it's cooled down for a good hour most probably, and then I'll place it in the fridge for another hour and a half, and Julie and I will be eating this cold. Before it goes in the fridge, I'll put a little cover on top so that no smell is created in the fridge. And better still, if you like, you can eat this tomorrow, leave it in the fridge overnight. The cooler the better, because it's really hot outside, it's summer, and it will marinate further, and it will inherit some beautiful flavors. But we will eat this tonight. So I'll see you in about 2 to 3 hours time once it's out of the fridge, and then I'll tell you what it tastes like then. See you later, bye. In case you're wondering how to eat this, by the way, this could be a perfect main meal, as it is going to be for us tonight, or could also be a side dish. In our case, as I mentioned, it will be the main meal. It's still actually a little bit warm underneath because it's been in the fridge an hour, but you can see how much easier it is actually to lift it once I've actually cut through a portion. He said, and it doesn't want to come up.
Hopefully.
Oh, it's because I've got a leaf underneath. It did seem a good idea at the time. There you go. So look.
Bit of leaf.
Perfect. Okay. So we are going to eat ours with a little salad and some avocado. But as I mentioned, you can use anything you like. Perfect side dish with chicken or beef or anything, fish. So, but we wanted to have a vegetarian meal tonight, as we did have a heavy weekend. So let's see what it's like, and I'll let you know. I'll get some of this lovely cheese also, and a little tomato. It's beautiful. It's a blend between a caponata, if you know what a caponata is. If you don't, there's a video up here, and the parmigiana. It's a beautiful summer flavor, really delicious, and because it's still a little bit warm, you can appreciate it maybe a little bit more, but the cooler it gets, the better. I hope you make it, and as I said, you can use any type of zucchini you find in the supermarket or in Julie's vegetable patch. Anyway, thank you for watching the video, and let me know if you make it and how you get on. Ciao ciao, thank you, bye.